Welcome to the Ghost Stories of the Battles channel, where we delve deep into the eerie intersections of history and haunting narratives. Tonight, we invite you to journey with us to a place where shadows whisper tales of despair and resilient place that echoes with the lost voices of a tragic past. The Treblinka Extermination Camp in Poland. Imagine this, over 800,000 souls lost their lives within the steel confines of Treblinka, leaving behind echoes that still resonate in silence. What if those echoes could speak? What stories would they reveal? It's a chilling thought that invites us to confront the unimaginable horror endured during World War II, a time when humanity faced its darkest hour and the depths of cruelty emerged unfathomably. Treblinka stands as one of the deadliest extermination camps, a site of ghastly history that demands remembrance. As we explore this grim chapter, we recognize its profound impact not just on Europe, but on the collective consciousness of people across the globe, including here in America. The remnants of Treblinka today present a desolated landscape where the weight of lost lives clings to every overgrown path and crumbling structure. As dusk descends upon this haunted ground, an eerie stillness envelops the site, punctuated only by the chilling breeze that whispers of sorrowful pasts. Here, among the ghosts of history, we stand at the precipice of chilling revelations, poised to witness tales that intertwine both anguish and courage. What secrets await us in these echoes of the past? Join us as we venture into the shadowy realm of Treblinka, where history and haunting converge like no other. Story 1. The Last Transport. The wind howled gently through the remnants of Treblinka, sending a shiver down my spine as I stepped onto the unforgiving ground where countless lives had been extinguished. I was a historian, armed with a journal, a digital recorder, and an overwhelming sense of both purpose and trepidation. My journey to this desolate place where 800,000 souls met their tragic end was fueled by a desire to unearth the past, to give voice to the silenced. It was a chilly autumn evening, the sun sinking below the horizon, casting long shadows on the overgrown paths that twisted through the camp's remains. The ruins of the barracks loomed like ghosts of a long, forgotten nightmare, and the air was thick with a sense of oppressive silence. I set up my recording equipment just outside what had once been the entrance. With each click of the camera shutter, it felt as if I was awakening the echoes of history lying in wait. As dusk settled over Treblinka, the atmosphere shifted. The once vibrant colors of the foliage surrendered to a palette of gray and blue. A chill danced across my skin, but it wasn't just the temperature that left me uneasy. It was the feeling of being watched, seen by unseen eyes that bore witness to the horrors that unfolded here. As I stood in the heart of darkness, I couldn't shake the bone, deep awareness of the untold stories woven into this landscape. The equipment I had brought was not merely for documentation. I hoped to capture something more, perhaps a whisper from the past, a fleeting sound that might offer a glimpse into the souls that had walked this earth before me. I pressed the record button and stepped back, allowing the omnipresent quiet to fill the void. Then I heard a faint murmur that seemed to rise from the ground itself. It was almost imperceptible at first, a tapestry of desperate whispers woven together in a cacophony of voices, some speaking in Polish, others in Yiddish, all laced with desperation. My heart raced as I realized these were not merely figments of my imagination, but the spectral echoes of the last transport. Instinctively drawn to the echoes, I felt a pull towards an aged barrack that sat an establishment, a structure that had witnessed the unspeakable. I stepped cautiously onto the uneven earth, the twilight shadows clinging to my limbs like ghostly hands. As I pushed open the dilapidated door, it creaked ominously, protesting my entrance. Inside, the air felt thicker, charged with a presence that felt almost alive. Suddenly, the darkness within the barrack shifted. Fabrics of night hung before me to reveal a vision, a swirling mass of translucent figures, their faces twisted in silent screams, reliving their final moments. They were bound, forced through the horrific gauntlet that led them to the gas chambers, each soul suspended in time. burdened with unfulfilled hopes and unexpressed goodbyes. I could feel their pain, hear their collective lament as I stood frozen, a witness to their torment. The vision intertwined with the fabric of history, revealing the stories of individuals lost in the abyss of Treblinka. Among them, a mother clutching her child, eyes wide with fear, a young man looking defiantly at the guards, refusing to bow under the weight of despair. Their spirits cried out, each life a thread in a twisted tapestry of human suffering. As I absorbed the impactful stories that played out around me, I struggled to comprehend the depth of this horror. Each apparition held a narrative of shattered devotion to life, a dream snuffed out. I could almost hear their whispers in the air, pleading for recognition and remembrance. Tell our stories. Do not let us fade into the silence of oblivion. Hours melted away as I bore witness, my heart gripped by an overwhelming sense of grief, a profound sorrow for lives extinguished and memories left unshared. I was trapped in a passage of history, tangled in the very essence of what made us human: love, loss, and the undying hope for recognition. But what could I do? I was just a historian among ghosts, yet the burden of their anguish weighed heavily upon my shoulders. When the vision began to blur, the silent screams of the lost rising like smoke, I took a step back, breaking the connection. The spectral assembly gradually dimmed, retreating into mist until the barrack was void of life once more, leaving me breathless in the aftermath. Overwhelmed with emotions, I exited into the cold night air, the remnants of their sorrow clinging to me. The experience echoed in my mind, resonating long after I had left the ancient barrack. The faces of the lost lingered, reminding me of their desperation and desire for remembrance. As I stood outside the barrack, staring into the haunting dusk that enveloped Treblinka, I understood the weight of the experiences I had just witnessed. Beyond the statistics, those 800,000 lost souls had names and stories, threads stitched into the fabric of humanity's past. It was a reminder, a clarion call to honor the memory of those who suffered here, to tell their stories, to break the echoing silence that had shrouded Treblinka for so long was now my duty and my sacred responsibility. I felt transformed, a keeper of the memories, a conduit through which their voices could be reborn. Leaving the camp, I knew I would carry the weight of their sorrows with me forever. And as I reflected on the harrowing reality of what had transpired on these grounds, I made a silent vow to keep their memory alive, a pledge to shout their stories into the void, ensuring they would never be forgotten. Treblinka would always resonate with echoes of the past. It would not be silent while those spirits cried out for remembrance. But as we leave behind the spectral echoes of the last transport, another tale waits in the shadows, ready to unearth even deeper sorrows. What happened on the nights when the moon was high and the air was thick with fear? Story 2. The camp's guardian. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the worn pathways of Treblinka. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth, a reminder of the dead leaves scattered about, waiting for the chill of winter. Among those haunting echoes stood Mark, a ranger devoted to preserving the solemnity of this memorial site. Each evening, he walked the grounds with a heavy heart, burdened not just by the memory of the lives lost, but by the palpable weight of history itself. Mark was drawn to the camp, not only by his commitment to education and remembrance, but by an unexplainable connection, a sense that this land was alive with ghosts that whispered on the dew-laden grass and rustled amid overgrown bushes. As the trees swayed gently in the breeze, he could almost hear the remnants of laughter, cries, and prayers mingling with the rustling leaves. It was an unsettling but intimate relationship with the ground beneath him, as if the spirit of Treblinka had chosen him as its custodian. With the last rays of sunlight flickering out, Mark prepared for his night shift. Armed with a flashlight that flickered somewhat unsteadily, he patrolled the grounds, his eyes ever watchful for anything out of the ordinary. Although he had been there numerous times, tonight felt distinctly different. The air crackled with an energy that made the fine hairs on the back of his neck stand up. He shrugged off the feeling, chalking it up to exhaustion. and continued his rounds. Minutes edged into hours as shadows grew deeper. An eerie quiet settled over the camp, broken only by the whispering wind. It was during one of his patrols near the memorial stones that Mark first noticed it saw footsteps trailing behind him, barely audible yet persistent. He halted, turning slowly to face the encroaching darkness, only to be met with the succinct sound of silence. A chill ran down his spine, intensifying the unsettling atmosphere that now enveloped him like a suffocating blanket. As Mark resumed his walk, the footsteps returned, echoing softly, mirroring his pace yet remaining conspicuously absent from sight. He quickened his stride, trying to dive deeper into thoughts of the camp's preservation, the education programs he'd been working on, and the many visitors he wished to honor. But those thoughts were interrupted by the distinct sensation that he was being watched, a feeling seeping into his mind like a dark stain. Abruptly, he felt a cold breath caress his neck. He spun around, but there was nothing. Only darkness and the weight of countless memories hung in the air. Heart racing, Mark clutched his flashlight tighter and decided to head toward the barracks, where the walls bore witness to unspeakable horrors. Perhaps he could find solace in the tangible history there, or at least a distraction from the mounting dread clinging to him. Approaching the old barrack, he pushed open the creaking door. Inside, moonlight poured in through cracks in the wood, revealing dilapidated structures and remnants scattered across the floor. But it wasn't the physical decay that captivated his attention. It was the presence of feeling of maternal sorrow that enveloped him, a heart-wrenching sadness woven into the very fabric of the air. Suddenly, the temperature dropped, and in the flickering light from his flashlight, shadows began to coalesce, forming a figure at the edge of the room. The vision coalesced into the form of a woman, her face etched with agony, her eyes wide with grief as if she were staring at something just out of reach. Mark's breath hitched in his throat. He felt an ancient sorrow that pulsed through the very walls. She was there, an apparition believed by many to be the guardian spirit of the camp, forever mourning the children she was unable to save. Mark's heart ached for her pain, resonating with a feeling he couldn't quite comprehend, one that married fear with empathy. As he stared into her haunted gaze, memories of lost voices swirled around him, echoes of children, tricked into believing they were going on a journey, lovely but tragically misguided. Their laughter morphing into screams, their innocence cast aside. This guardian had suffered immensely, bearing the weight of loss more deeply than he had ever imagined. With a sudden rush of wind, the specter reached out, as if pleading for recognition, for understanding. It dawned on Mark that she wasn't merely a ghost. She was a manifestation of grief, a protector of the unremembered, fighting still for the souls who had perished under her watch. "Why haven't you left?" Mark whispered, compelled by an understanding deeper than words. "You deserve peace." But the woman's expression remained unchanged, her sorrow unresolved. She was a reminder, a lifeline to the lost souls who couldn't bear the injustice of their demise. In that moment, it was as if their shared grief bonded them. He realized the significance of his role to honor her pain and the countless others like her, ensuring their stories echoed through time. Mark's breath hitched, trembling with the weight of his revelation. This spirit, both terrifying and beautiful, was a guardian of memory, a reminder that the dead lived on in the stories we tell and the respect we pay. As moments stretched and merged into eternity, the room began to blur, the lines of reality wavering. Mark felt himself drawn closer, yearning to embrace the spirit, desperate to bridge the chasm of suffering that separated them, only to be met with unyielding barrier of sorrow. She lingered at the cusp of eternity, grounded to this realm by love, loss, and a relentless desire for vengeance against time's cruel passing. Then, as suddenly as the apparition had appeared, she began to dissolve into mist, her whispers of grief echoing faintly, leaving Mark alone in the barrack once more. He stood there trembling, no longer just a ranger but a witness to the eternal guardianship of those who had suffered at Treblinka. The night wore on, and Mark emerged from the barrack with every intention to respect the spirits he could no longer see but would always feel. His heart raged with a new understanding of fierce responsibility to keep alive their stories, amplifying their voices that cried out from the shadows. As dawn approached, the chill in the air lifted slightly, but the emotional weight clung to him. The camp could never be merely a relic of a dark past. It was a sanctuary for the lost souls who sought redemption, and he was now one of their stewards. He would take every opportunity to educate visitors about the camp's history, imbuing each tour with the significance of remembrance, ensuring that those lost at Treblinka would never be forgotten. In the end, Mark realized that guardianship went beyond mere preservation. It involved unearthing the memories buried deep in the recesses of time, reminding the world not only of the horrors endured, but also of the enduring spirits still watching. As guardians of the memory try to protect those lost, not all spirits rest at ease. Our next tale reveals the lingering shadows of defiance against the horrors. Story 3. The Defiant Ghost. The day was dreary as clouds loomed over Treblinka, casting a thick gloom over the remnants of one of history's darkest chapters. A chilling wind swept across the grounds, rustling the last of the autumn leaves, as if reminding the world that not all stories are buried. Among the memories embedded in the earth stood a visitor, Marcus, whose ancestry bore the scars of loss and resilience. With every step he took along the uneven path, he could feel the weight of past pressing against him, urging him to listen. He had come to pay homage to his ancestors, who suffered unimaginable horrors within these walls, their lives abruptly extinguished, their voices silenced in a cacophony of despair. Standing before the remnants of the camp, Marcus felt a tumultuous swell of emotions, grief, anger, and an overwhelming resolve. He tightened his grip on the pendant his grandmother had given him, a simple silver star of David, a talisman of hope against the dark. As he ventured deeper into the camp, something uncanny began to unfold. Shapes flickered at the periphery of his vision, silhouettes caught between realms, the living and the lost. An overwhelming sensation coursed through him, urging him to confront the shadows that lingered. Whispers of courage echoing through the desolate grounds. As Marcus moved cautiously through the place designed for such horror, he found himself standing where the trains had once stopped, where the WWII hopefuls, dreams locked away in their hearts, had disembarked. In that moment, the winds died down and the silence became unsettlingly intricate. He closed his eyes, half expecting the air to thrum with the stories of the past, tales of resistance and undying spirit. Then it began. Flashes of spirits flickered to life around him, their eyes reflecting a fiery defiance. He caught glimpses of young men and women gripping each other's hands, faces set in steely determination. They were the souls refusing to be forgotten, hoisting invisible banners of rebellion against the looming shadows of death. Their whispers danced around Marcus, speaking fiercely of their last moments of bravery, each vibration resonating with a history he had longed to unearth. Suddenly, he was transported to a vision that laid bare the harsh reality of their ordeal. He saw a makeshift gathering in the dead of night, beneath the pale glow of a haunting moon. Men and women gathered away from prying eyes, fostering a flicker of hope. They spoke in hushed tones, plans to disrupt the grim process that consumed so many. Marcus could feel the heat of their passion. The whispers of their arrangements twined together, an unbroken thread of unity against the chaos. Amidst this moment, he locked eyes with a figure dressed in tattered clothing, fiercely determined and resolute. Who was she? As their gaze met, he felt an intimate connection, a shared heartbeat echoing through time. This spirit, with fire in her eyes, seemed to challenge fate directly. She raised a fist as if urging her companions to stand tall, to push back against the darkness threatening to smother them. "Remember us," her voice cried, clear and strong, slicing through the silence of history's recesses. "We will not let our dreams die here." The spirit turned slightly, beckoning with emotion that seemed to encompass all who had suffered there. Marcus felt tears prick at the edges of his eyes. He understood now. These weren't merely shadows. but warriors who had stared into the abyss and laughed in its face. As he continued deeper into the heart of Treblinka, each footstep took him closer to the very soul of resistance. Visions flared around him, a group of teenagers devising a plan to resist forced relocation. A young mother shielding her children as the camp guards approached, and an elderly man encouraging others to remember their dignity even in the face of despair. Memories surged around him, swirling and intertwining until history flowed like a river beneath his feet. Then the silence shattered again. Marcus found himself in a place filled with a kind of despair that felt almost tangible. Moments of quiet bravery echoed here, where the spirit of defiance reigned supreme. A whispering wind swept through the area, carrying stories that danced tantalizingly at the fringes of understanding. In this chilling space, he saw a group, united in purpose under the flickering glow of a lantern, the only light in a suffocating darkness. They clutched makeshift weapons, preparing for what they knew might be their last stand. In that moment, their collective spirit roared. An unyielding zest for life surged through them, rippling in waves that brushed against Marcus, inspiring him with unwavering courage. "What's left for us if not to stand strong to the end?" a woman declared, her eyes shining like stars against the violet, black backdrop of despair. "We will tell our children of the sun and the freedom it holds. We will be more than just numbers." With every spirit he encountered, Marcus felt a pulse beneath his skin that urged him to join in the fight, to honor their courage. The toll of their defiant refusal to succumb felt like a blanket infused with warmth. It was in this sacred cacophony of raging hearts and undeterred wills that Marcus found himself transformed. He began to voice his own thoughts aloud. "You will not fade away," he proclaimed, his voice reverberating as it joined the chorus of their struggles. "I see you. I hear you. Your story will not be forgotten." The spirits shifted, aligning themselves with his words, coalescing into a powerful force of unity. They wrapped around him, a protective embrace made of fiery resolve. He could almost hear their collective affirmation, echoing through the trees and lingering in the air. Their voices intertwined. A symphony of resilience. "We rise. We endure." With determination swirling within him, Marcus pressed on, feeling the weight of their history roll off his shoulders. He entered a small clearing, transformed into a memorial site marked by simple stones, where flickering candles stood in remembrance. He knelt beside one, placing his hand on its cold surface as if it were a heartbeat lost in time. "Light this candle for you," he whispered, "for the spirits that refuse to surrender, for your stories, for your fight." The flames danced in response, illuminating the darkness, casting a soft glow around him. As the fire flickered, he felt the spirits draw closer, wrapping him in their gratitude as night descended further upon Treblinka. It was in that moment, as shadows merged with twilight, that a final vision came to Marcus, a gathering of souls, hand in hand, facing the dawn of a new despair with unbroken spirits. They stood, warrior-like, on a hill overlooking the camp, defiantly demanding recognition, even in the face of oblivion. He realized that their resistance wasn't merely against their oppressors, but against the silence that sought to consume all memory of their existence. With the candlelight flickering in the decade-old wind, Marcus felt a surge of purpose course through him as he rose to his feet. The spirits swirled around him, their voices no longer desperate or sorrowful, but triumphant. They had defied the chains of time, their essence preserved in the whispers of memory for future generations, as long as there were those willing to remember. He took one last look around the camp, absorbing the weight of what had transpired. "I will carry your strength with me," he vowed, his heart swelling with an unquenchable fire fueled by the courage he witnessed. As he prepared to leave, the spirits merged into one last vision. They stood proudly as a united force, gesturing towards the horizon, a powerful reminder of their enduring legacy. He left Treblinka with a renewed sense of identity, aware that these spirits would always be vigilantly watching and guiding him, inspiring him to continue the work of remembrance. No longer merely fragments of tragedy, They shone brightly in his mind as a beacon of defiance and resilience. In the soft glow of the dying day, just before the darkness draped the land, Marcus turned for one last glance, feeling the warmth of their pride as he departed. He emerged from Treblinka transformed, embracing his role as a conduit for their stories, ensuring that the echoes of courage would alight in the hearts of all who heard them, never to be silenced again. As Marcus stepped away from the haunting presence of Treblinka, a sense of purpose settled over him like a protective shroud. In the twilight, he realized he was not alone, for whispers of courage lingered around him, spirits insistent on demanding an eternal place in history. Who do we leave behind when we remember? He pondered, just as shadows danced in the corners of his vision. Eager to share the stories that burned fiercely within him, he sought to illuminate the hearts of others. In doing so, he understood that Treblinka was not just a name, but a testament to resilience, an indelible mark upon his narrative to carry forth. The air grew thick with an expectancy that pushed him gently onward as he moved toward the next tale waiting in the dark, knowing fully that the stories told of love, loss, and incredible strength were only just beginning to be uncovered. The shadows stretched long behind him, whispering secrets of heartbroken souls on the verge of resolution, just waiting to be told. Story 4: Try Whispers of the Forgotten. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden hue over the remnants of Treblinka. The once bustling camp now lay silent, save for the wind that rustled through the wild grass, whispering to those who dared to listen. Amongst them was Mara, a local historian whose burden hard with the tales of those lost to the atrocities that stained this landscape. For years, she had pored over documents and photographs, breathing life into the forgotten stories of countless souls whose names faded with time. Tonight, under the blanket of dusk that pulled shadows over the graves, she was determined to do more than just study. She wanted to connect. The air was thick with anticipation as Mara prepared for a sayo. Ants at the old gravesite, an area long overgrown, but heavily embedded with the memories of those who once called it home. This was more than an exploration. It was a mission to breathe a voice into silence, to blend history with the spiritual in a way that would honor the lives lost within these sinister walls. As the first stars twinkled into existence, she arranged her candles in a circle, their flickering flames reflecting the uncertainty in her heart. The atmosphere shifted around her. The whispers of the wind morphed into a chorus of sighs. The very ground beneath her felt alive, echoing the lost hopes and dreams of those buried within. Just as Mara was about to begin, a chill swept through the clearing, causing the faintest shimmer of something ethereal to catch her eye, a presence yet unseen, but palpably near. Mara closed her eyes, inhaling deeply as she steadied her racing heart. In her mind, she called upon the spirits of Treblinka, hoping they would hear her plea, "I honor you. I wish to share your stories. Please, speak to me." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the wind picked up, swirling around her, and with it came a murmur, a faint sighing that grew louder, almost reverent. Suddenly, the candle flames flickered wildly as if unknown hands danced near them, igniting a vision that took her breath away. Before her, a scene unfolded. A young woman, no older than 20, stood in a crowded barrack, her face set with determination despite the fear in her eyes. "We can't lose hope," she was saying to a group of children huddled close, her hands gripping their shoulders. With each word, Mara felt the weight of despair and courage in that moment. She could almost hear the heartbeat of a community bound by shared fear, but ignited by collective strength. The diligent historian's heart ached as the vision faded, replaced now by a different spirit, an elderly man, his face lined with grief. "My family," he whispered, his voice like dry leaves in the autumn wind. The oppressive sadness was palpable, washing over Mara as she leaned closer, wanting to soak in his sorrow and carried away from this forsaken place. "Tell me," she urged softly, "tell me about them." The man's longing eyes glistened with tears as he took Mara back in time to the moment he faced the choices that would change his life forever, decisions made not out of cowardice, but driven by an undying love for his family. "I was taken from them," he breathed, the words tremulous. "But I never lost sight of them in my heart." And with that, a flurry of memories descended upon her. Scenes of joy, laughter, and everyday life intertwined with shadow, moments of hope pierced with dread. From a hidden corner, Mara witnessed families sharing meals, children playing beneath a sun-warmed sky before the darkness fell. Each pulse of life splintered within her echoing joy that was brutally snatched away. As she immersed herself deeper, the air crackled with desperation. A voice broke through the veil of memories. "Please, remember us." It was a chorus, a plea from many souls who had suffered forgotten at Treblinka. The weight of their stories rested heavily upon her shoulders, yet it felt like a sacred calling. Mara now saw visions of those condemned: a musician strumming a guitar, his notes floating in the air like fireflies, a mother stitching a blanket, humming melodies passed through generations, a scholar, eyes alight with dreams of one day sharing his knowledge with the world. All of them breathing life into the surreal horror surrounding them. At once, she felt a surge of understanding. The spirits did not want to cling to the anguish of their final moments. Instead, they yearned to celebrate the essence of their identities, the vibrancy of their lives before Treblinka became the end. With every story shared, they sought recognition, validation, a promise that no one would ever forget their names. Whispers enveloped Mara as she listened to them, her heart breaking for these lost lives intertwined in joy and tragedy. "You will be remembered," she vowed, her voice firm, though tremulous with emotion. "I will make sure that the world knows your stories." Then came the sudden chill that swept through the clearing, and Mara's candles flickered violently before blowing out. Darkness enveloped her, thick and all-consuming. Panic set in as she reached for her flashlight, hands trembling. The shadows danced around her menacingly, threatening to snatch away the ephemeral connection she formed moments ago. Mara's breath quickened as she felt a presence draw near, stronger now, more defined. It was a voice that resonated in her core, a low, melodic whisper that sent shivers down her spine. "Do not fear, for we are here," it said. The air was charged with emotion, and as the spirit took form, she could see the woman from before, the one who had comforted the children. "Remember us," the apparition urged, the sadness etched in her expression replaced by a fierce determination. "We lived, we loved, and we fought against the unthinkable. Let our stories weave through time." A newfound urgency ignited within Mara. She could feel her pulse racing, an unyielding drive to honor these voices that time had silenced. "I promise," she said, holding back tears. "I swear to carry you with me, every step of the way." As dawn began to break, suffusing the air with warm light, the spirits slowly withdrew, leaving her behind, imbued with an extraordinary sense of responsibility. Mara packed her belongings, her heart still trembling from the experience. Before she left, she turned back to the gravesite. "Thank you," she whispered fervently, feeling the weight of their presence linger softly like afterglow. The sun's first rays illuminated Treblinka's stark remains, and Mara emerged from the shadows as a vessel. She would weave their stories into the very fabric of history, so that the forgotten would never fade into oblivion. That night marked a turning point for Mara, igniting a fire within her to put pen to paper. In the days that followed, she found herself in the archives, poring over documents not merely for the purpose of gathering facts, but to capture the essence of souls lost in darkness. Each namesake brought forth complex emotions. The bitterness of loss married with the sweetness of memory. Merging the threads of tragedy with resilience, she became an advocate for remembrance, sharing their stories through lectures, writings, and a newly organized memorial in the heart of the local community. The weight of the spirits she had connected with resided in her, shaping her work, pushing her into the world beyond echoing silence. As she shared their stories, the historian found others listening, drawn into the haunting reality of what Treblinka truly represented, a reminder against the cruelty of forgetting. Mara emerged as a steward of memory, each retelling a whisper against the void, honoring those souls who fought for recognition even beyond their last breaths. The urgency fueled her, never allowing the ghosts to be lost again. Their voices would echo through time, seeking light amidst the shadows of history. As we reach the conclusion of our journey through the haunting landscapes of Treblinka, it's essential to reflect on the emotional weight and historical significance embodied in the stories we've shared. Each narrative holds the echoes of lives once vibrant, now intertwined with loss and memory, resonating through time. Treblinka is not merely a site of tragedy. It is a poignant reminder of the resilience of the human spirit amid unimaginable horrors, and it beckons us to confront the past, ensuring the stories of those silenced are not forgotten. Through the ghostly whispers and spectral sightings experienced by our historian, ranger, visitor, and local historian, we have peeled back the layers of time, illuminating the desperate cries for recognition and redemption of the souls affected by the camp. These stories, not just of sorrow, but of defiance, remembrance, and hope, serve as powerful reminders of the strength embedded in the human heart. Now, we invite you, our viewers, to engage with us. Have you ever visited a historical site that left an indelible mark on your heart? Do you have stories of encounters with spirits, whispers of the past, or experiences that felt deeply connected to history? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Together, let's keep the dialogue alive and foster an understanding that transcends the boundaries of history and the supernatural. As we walk away from the remnants of Treblinka, one must ponder, who do we leave behind when we remember, and who whispers their stories in the depths of our minds? This chilling realization nudges at the corners of our consciousness, urging us to carry forth the memories of the past with both reverence and responsibility. Thank you for joining us on this haunting exploration through the intertwining paths of history and the supernatural. Your presence in this journey enriches the act of remembrance, reminding us that the past, with all its spectral weight, continues to shape our present. If you found our tales compelling and wish to delve deeper into the stories that linger at the edges of our reality, please like this video, share it with those who might appreciate the intersection of history and the unseen, and subscribe to the Ghost Stories of the Battles channel. Together, let's continue to explore the shadows of the past, honoring the lives and spirits that demand to be heard.